Hi, it's KCCK's Culture Crawl. I'm Dennis Green, and my guests today are Pete Damiano and Ann Browning, involved in a musical and fundraising event coming up in Iowa City. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis.
Nice to have you both.
Yeah, nice
Ann is the principal at Elizabeth Tate High School, and we'll explain the connection with that in just a minute. Pete is the brains behind, the creative force, the leader of the blues band Homebrewed, which has been, in addition to your big job at the University of Iowa, so in your spare time,
Exactly.
you run this band, and we've our paths have crossed several times over the years, but the band came to Bluesapalooza.
Right.
And that was the first time I got to hear you guys in action last January. And that was just a blast.
Well, we had a great time. Here we are, I think, of a group of people who primarily do benefit concerts for groups around town and just want to make music. And we're on stage with all of these State Blues Hall of Famers, and they were very kind to us, and the crowd was fantastic, and it was just a really special evening for us.
And we haven't talked about it much on the air yet, but we are doing it all again next February. Watch your mail. There'll be more information about that, but we're not talking about that today. But thanks for committing to do that again.
Absolutely.
Pete. But you mentioned briefly when we were in just a minute ago that primarily Homebrewed exists as a band, obviously to have fun and play.
Right.
But instead of going out and hustling gigs, you primarily work to raise funds for other organizations. How did that come about?
We started because of some fundraisers at the university originally. And as a result of that, it really felt like if we're going to put in our time and energy to do this and take time away from family and a lot of other things, we might as well do it for something that's worthwhile. And as you know, with all service, you actually get way more out than what you give. And so the return on this, and it's just sort of built on that. It's really a nice way for us to sometimes organize the events like this one. And Ann will be talking about this was the first time they'd ever done a fundraiser for Tate. So we were thrilled to be able to be the initiator. And then other times we'll be the ones that'll just kind of come in and play for something that's already set, like the Shelter House Barbecue Bash or something like that. But it really is just a really special event. And as you can imagine, the people in the band, because they're not doing it for money, they're doing it to give back. I appreciate all the plaudits about me and being in charge of the band, but it's really cool to have these people who are just good people doing things for their own way, our little way of giving back and helping these, not necessarily nonprofit here, but a lot of nonprofits that are literally doing the Lord's work, as they say, and on a shoestring in any way that we can help. We're thrilled to be able to do it.
For those who weren't fortunate enough to be at Bluesapalooza last year, tell me how the band is comprised. What's the personnel? Right.
So we have myself, lead vocal harmonica, band manager, if you will, and now starting to write some music. And on our new album that we'll be talking about half originals and half covers. Bryce Bernard is our lead guitarist, really excellent lead guitar, plays in a lot of metal bands too. And another fun thing about our band is we've got an age distribution from 18 to 67. And so that also then, that kind of brings both the joy of it, and we also learn different styles of music from each other. Sean Desai, recent graduate from the dental school at Iowa, is our sax player. On alto sax, Mark Feigl, sousaphone, baritone sax. Some people might know him as the instrument repair guy at West Music. Jeff Gleason, guitarist, who's now moved to Nashville but came back up for our recording. Cameron Gray, another recent dental school grad. I have a connection to the dental school. On percussion, Kirk Phillips on trumpet, Oliver Stowe, a grad student on bass, and then Ged Thomas, who's another professor of industrial engineering on keyboard on this album. And so it's a really nice mix of, horn section and allows us the flexibility to do a number of things.
You mentioned that you just recorded your first ever CD, and that's actually the event that we're talking about. It's kind of a CD release party that is also going to benefit Elizabeth Tate High School coming up the 4th of December.
Correct. So 4th of December at Wildwood on the east side of Iowa City from 4 to 7. Doors will open at 4. And again, to raise money to help support families at Tate over the holidays with food when there won't be meals being served at the school, and can talk about that much more than I. But it's our first album release party, and so very excited and appreciate Pete McCarthy and all the folks at Wildwood that are hosting us, and got to give a shout out to Flat Black Studio and Luke Tweedy, where we did our recording, who was just great to work with and a lot of fun. And if anybody's ever looking to record, I would highly say he's booked up ahead. But
Hey, he keeps pretty busy. He
does.
He is not exactly a well-kept secret. There's some pretty high-powered people who come through that studio.
Absolutely, and for good reason. I mean, he's both very good at what he does, but he's also a lot of fun to work with. And it's a fun place down there, and first time for us to record in this way. And so it was great learning experience, and we're really thrilled to be able to do the album release for Tate.
And Elizabeth Tate High School is the alternative high school in the Iowa City District.
Yes.
So that means that you have even a wider range of socioeconomic and other backgrounds of students than even most schools do these days. So tell me a little bit about the programs at your school.
Oh, okay, great. So, yeah, and we actually are even the regional alternative high school. So we do serve West Branch and Solon, Clear Creek, Amana, and Tipton. So we have about 170 students during the day, and we serve an additional 40 until 6 o'clock at night after school for those 18 to 21-year-olds who are at work all day and need to finish their high school diploma. So about 170 students and families that we serve for the district.
And this is going to raise money for your program that makes sure that students and families have, are able to get some take-home meals for those times when school is not in session. Am I getting that
Definitely,
right?
correct. So about 6 years ago, Trinity Episcopal Church in Iowa City helped us develop our first pantry, and also the Crisis Center gave us food. But we've honed in now several times. Last year we sent home 320 food bags, or helped 320 families. For instance, tomorrow will be Thanksgiving break, and they'll be gone Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and the weekend. So we will send probably about 30 bags of food home with frozen pizzas, fruit, lunch meat, bread, mayonnaise, anything to extend the food through the weekend. And then every Friday, we try and send home bags of food with kids who need it. Also personal items, shampoos, deodorant, toilet papers, in big demand. And since the pandemic, it's been really hard to get things, of course, from the food pantry all the time because they're in need as well. So, but our pantry just serves all the kids every day. They know where it is, and they can take food from the pantry and go home. And then we put together bags for the extended vacations.
And of course, as a school, and you're the principal of the school, you have a job, and that job is not raising funds, unfortunately, to help students. So this is, have you done many fundraisers before for this, or?
No, this is the very first one.
Really?
I mean, I was so honored that Pete and his band chose to support Tate High School. I was so excited. So they've been walking me through this, and it's been a lot of fun so far. But I'm excited.
Wait till you get on stage with the washboard.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wait, I shouldn't have said that.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Pete, tell me about the recording the album. I mean, you did talk about how Luke at Flat Black Studios was such a huge help, but how did that idea came about? I'm sure that when you started the band, in the back of your mind, you're always thinking, "Oh, but sure be nice to record an album someday." But to describe the process of how that became reality.
I mean, when we started the band, that was not anywhere in my vision. Let alone playing regularly at the mill. Like, we got to the point we were doing, I always felt that sort of being on the cover of the Rolling Stone for us was having our picture up in the mill. But then when the mill came down, I was hoping the picture came down with it somehow, that it would have felt like there was some appropriateness to this. But then a few years ago, it just felt like as a way to kind of take the band to the next level and keep people engaged, thinking about how we might go about recording and giving us a goal to look forward to. And then the pandemic came and things sort of, went as it did for all of us. And then as we were getting back together, it seemed like, again, here's a good goal as a way to sort of get back into things and start prepping again and picking, again, some songs that we had written that were a mix, and some of them that I think of as really being sort of almost pandemic related, even though we wrote right before the pandemic, as well as, some more, like a lot of the things we try to do, some things that people have heard of, but then others that maybe might be like an indie blues band that they're not that familiar with, like Kaleo or Nathaniel Radcliffe and the Nice Sweats. So some people are really into music know, but some of the people that just don't, show up maybe aren't as familiar with, but are a lot of fun songs. And then to have a mix of those things throughout.
And you mentioned that some of them are originals. How long have you been writing songs?
About 5 years. And so the first song that I wrote was Devil in My Soul.
Which is the title of the album.
Which is the title of the album. And sort of, to me, speaks to that challenge that we have inside of all of us in terms of doing what's right or not. It's not aimed at anything. And I will give a shout out to my good friend Kevin Burt when I was writing the song and I needed one more little catch to it, and was having lunch with him, and he gave me the words that I needed and kind of looped that around, and then I'll come up with a melody line, and then we'll get the band together and start jamming it together. And we've had a fair amount of turnover because we've had a fair number of students and people leave town and stuff, and which is a challenge, but it also creates opportunities. And so each time we have a different mix, it might sound just a little bit different, but overall the group that we recorded with had been together for quite a while, and so we're really happy with that. Then another one of our original songs is called Spirit of Hope, which again, kind of to me is sort of that pandemic. It was a combination of some racial justice issues. I actually wrote it as a bit of a tribute to Martin Luther King when I was out in Washington, D.C. at the Martin Luther King Memorial, and kind of on the way back in the plane wrote the song. But then also just about how we have to kind of sing to our good, as they say, rather than pander to our bad. And I think, and just keeping that spirit of hope that all of us are sort of challenged with during the pandemic. One other original song, Beer Brought Me to the Blues, since we're homebrewed, but I also grew up in Milwaukee. So, kind of that came together, and it really is also a tribute to old friends and the strength that they provide to us. And the last original song in here is a song called Loss in My Life, when a close friend of mine lost his brother suddenly. And he said, it felt like a piano with a key that didn't work, and he wasn't particularly musical, but like that, is something that really, sort of can kind of get, and we did in sort of a New Orleans style. And then a couple of original medleys, a Johnny Cash medley and a blues medley of 4 traditional blues songs that we put together. And then No Good from Kaleo, I Need Never Get Old by Nathaniel Rateliff, and then Pretty Women by Roy Orbison that Mark Feigl does a great job with the lead vocal on.
Was there anything that surprised you as you went through the process of going into the studio? What was different than what you were expecting?
Other than everything. One of the challenges, because we have 9 people, that it's hard to do. So one of the things we first had to do was capture the percussion and the horns together. And then we could have different tracks for everything else. And then I would have to re-record the vocals, or Mark on the one he did. And so how we would do that and then decide, okay, we've got a good capture of the horns and drums. And then from there, then we'd have to do it, and then going through almost everything at every note, made me never want to sing again when I was hearing, going through literally every song, and it's like, oh, geez, is that me? But
humbling, isn't it?
It was extremely humbling, but also very gratifying. And then, you come up with something that you're not too embarrassed by, and you don't mind having somebody else hear, and that's sort of the fun of it.
Devil in My Soul is the first ever album from Homebrewed. I think that we may even have one queued up here to air after our interview here, with any kind of luck. And the CD release party and concert and fundraiser for Tate High School is coming up Sunday, December 4th. And what's the time on that?
4 o'clock to 7 at Wildwood on the east side of Iowa City. It's a great place for people, anyways, to come and see music,
venue,
right?
Yeah.
And great barbecue.
Yes.
And it's only $10 to get in. You can reserve a whole table of 5 or $100 if you want a little bit of higher donation. We're going to have artwork available, some from the students, some from some local artists, for silent auction as other ways to donate. And then you can just donate money to help with the food.
Great. Excellent. Is there a place, is Homebrewed, do you have a site online, your own website or someplace where people can visit to find more info?
We do. Homebrewedic.com is our band's website. It's also available on the Wildwood site on their events page. And there's actually a really cool poster. I've got to give a shout out to Eli Ellinger, who's the guy who did the mural behind the stage at Wildwood and their logo. Did a really cool poster for us that's on the Wildwood website of a devil with his brew and the band coming out of it. It's very cool.
December 4th at Wildwood at 4 o'clock for the Homebrewed CD release party and fundraiser for Tate High School. Again, homebrewedic.com, right?
Correct.
If you'd like more information. And I got an advance listen to the CD. I really enjoy it, and looking forward to sharing that as well. Thank you both for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. It's been a pleasure.
You can hear the Culture Crawl live on the radio many weekdays at 10:30, or download the podcast, watch or listen on your own schedule at kcck.org/culture, or however you get your podcasts. I'm Dennis Green, and I'll talk to you later.